Have you ever placed judgment on someone or something that you've never had any real first-hand experience with? Yeah, me either.
In all seriousness, there was a time where I was guilty of placing a judgment on the small displacement bikes and the people that rode them. I thought they were underpowered, no fun to ride, and today I'd like to give this R3 a chance to change my mind. Before we throw a leg over this bike, let's talk about the design. It's definitely marketed as a track bike. And when you look at the design, it's definitely reminiscent of the R1, the R6. You can tell by this kind of shrouded headlight design, kind of bookending this air inlet that's pulling air into the radiator to keep things cool. This detail here is almost directly pulled from the Yamaha R1. Same as this triple clamp detail. These kind of cutouts here are very reminiscent of what we see on the R1. And it's powered by a 321cc 4-stroke twin-cylinder engine that puts out about 40 horsepower, with a top speed of 110 miles per hour with a 6-speed gearbox. And all of this comes in at about $5,400. This particular bike has ABS. Add another $300 or $400 for that feature, you are on the road for about $6,000, which, you know, in today's market isn't bad for a brand new bike. And continue on this race-inspired detail. You see this front fairing here is definitely reminiscent of what you see in the R6 and the R1, and it's really nicely designed, actually. This isn't your classic Ninja 400 that looked like it was from the 80s, because, well, I guess it was. You've got a lightweight steel frame, a fairly aggressive riding position. You have a one-up seat, so you could ride somebody in the back if you really felt compelled. It's chain drive, and you know, if I'm being honest, it looks like it's a mini sport bike. One thing that's kind of funny is that these are the same mirrors or the same side indicators that we find on some of the older MT-07s and FC-07s. And you know, good for Yamaha for reusing certain parts to keep the cost of this bike down. So the first serious question that needs to be answered is, can this bike safely manage highway speeds? And to answer this question, we'll need to find a highway. And what better highway than the infamous 6-lane 405? But a couple things before we get on to the highway is that the ergonomics are interesting. So it's definitely a lower bike. I'm able to put both feet on the ground. I stand at about 5'9". And the feet position, the peg position is actually pretty tucked. I mean, it is kind of sport inspired, right? And it feels like that. You kind of sit and really sit up inside the bike and really hug the tank with your legs. But the upper body position, the bars are actually pretty high. So your legs are tucked, but you're still in a command position, which is pretty nice. Let's get this thing on the highway and see how this thing performs. This thing winds out to like 12,000 RPMs. I mean, so here I am at highway speed, cruising speed. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same as going onto an on-ramp with a Kia Soul. So roll on the gas, and I mean, I don't exactly go nowhere. I roll on the gas and it does pick up. I feel pretty comfortable. This little front fairing on this tiny bike makes this thing really manageable, and it's super windy right now, right? You could probably hear that. Incredibly windy. This is a weird mix of things, man. It's like my legs feels like I'm back on a sport bike, but my upper body feels like I'm sort of on my MT-09, so I'm pretty comfortable, actually. It feels pretty stable at speed. It's very windy. I'm doing 75, and it's not blowing me all around. I mean, I'm full throttle right now, and I'm starting to pick up steam. I mean, really, this is a great bike for a beginner. I mean, I just grabbed a fistful of throttle, and I didn't my pants, which is good. Which is good. I mean, even for somebody that's not a beginner, that's a good thing to have a bike that's manageable. You know, there isn't much shifter feel, I'll say, which is a little bit different than most of the bikes I've ridden before. There is a gear finder, which is good, but you don't get that haptic click through the foot that you get on something that maybe with a bit more of I'll say a tougher gearbox. This traffic sucks. Switching highways. I mean, this 2-cylinder is kind of like a tractor motor. Oh shit! Oh, it has a little shift light too. That was sick. So I'm gonna tuck. Got the shift light. more throttle. Oh my goodness. 99. 99. Are you kidding me? All right, so on the highway, you know, it mixed results, mixed thought. It surprisingly is pretty comfortable at highway speed. Like the bike itself, like the bike is happy at 8,000 RPM, 7,000 RPMs, just cruising at 70, 80 miles an hour. Right, so it definitely has what it takes to live on the highway and not be like a complete dog. Like you can get on the highway, actually get up to highway speed at a surprisingly quicker speed than quicker time than I would have initially thought. So that's cool. Right, so I could totally see this being somebody's commuter bike or something like that. The only thing that does concern me a bit about this bike on the highway, especially on the 405 or somewhere where there's just wild traffic and crazy crazy people driving, is that it doesn't necessarily have enough power to get out of harm's way if I had to. But otherwise, it did pretty well on the highway. Downshift. Here we are in the mountains. You were really working for it. Holy smokes. I mean, if you hit the brakes, plan to downshift because you are not going to have the power to get back up to speed, which is kind of funny actually. I mean, here we go, tractor motor. But it really makes you focus on your lines to try to carry more speed. I mean, the bike feels pretty fucking good, boys. I mean, I can see how a bike like this will make you a better rider. I mean, this is more of a true, like, I wouldn't say racer's bike, but I could see this being a fucking blast at the track. If you keep it in that like 8 to 10,000 range and higher, and can avoid hitting the brakes, this thing is kind of fucking cool. Has some redeeming qualities in the mountains for sure. Like, it's not that fast, but once I got used to it a little bit more, you could really carry quite a bit of speed through these mountain roads. Got that tuck. I mean, holy smokes, boys. This thing, I'm having a fucking blast out of this thing. So I've gone from anti-300 to about as pro-300 as you can get. I think that this bike is a blast to ride. It's a fantastic option for anybody that's either just starting out and somebody that wants to really learn how to perfect the craft of riding, because it really forces you to focus on your lines, on your racing lines, and your lane placement, and your throttle control, and your brake control, and your gear control, everything. This is a fantastic training tool. And I'm not even gonna front. I might buy one just to take to the track to tighten up my skills. Okay, so part of being an adult is admitting when you're wrong and saying you're sorry. And folks, I was wrong. And I'm sorry for placing judgment on these bikes and the riders. I just had a ton of fun on an R3, cruising through the canyons. If you're not already, leave a like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I did hit 100 miles an hour.